hope that you got as much out of that conversation as we did. I know that Eugene and I are sitting here just sort of reflecting on everything that John and Sarah have said and really feeling like that's something we're going to have to go back through for a rewatch. We'd like to just remind you that you can donate at uc2020.com. Donations right now are at over 3,600. So thank you to everyone who has donated already. And we would like to remind you that we are supporting charities providing COVID-19 relief efforts and supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. They are Inner City Arts, Black Lives Matter, Artists Relief, the Loveland Foundation, Doctors Without Borders, MBK Alliance, World Central Kitchen, House of Ruth, and Black Visions Collective. You can check the @Unexpected Connections Instagram for more content and also ask upcoming speakers questions on our website, uc-2020.com. Our next segment coming up shortly features chef and author Kristen Kish and entrepreneur and retailer James Whitner.
So for those of you unfamiliar, Kristen Kish was born in South Korea and adopted into a family in Kentwood, Michigan. From an early age, she showed an affinity for cooking. It was her mother who encouraged her to head to culinary school, and after attending Le Cordon Bleu in Chicago, she quickly made inroads in the world of food and beverage, including a stint at Michelin star chef Guy Martin's Sensing and Barbara Lynch's Stir as Chef de Cuisine. Kristen would later compete on Bravo's Top Chef Season 10, where she won the coveted title, becoming the second female chef to win the prestigious competition. Currently, Kristen is working with the Seidel Group on Arlo Grey, which reflects on her playful yet refined cuisine, pulling inspiration from French and Italian cooking with the nostalgia of dishes from her upbringing.
Kristen is also sharing today's segment with James Whitner, who was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. James ventured into real estate shortly after graduation and in 2005 launched his first streetwear boutique in Charlotte, North Carolina. Since then, his retail business has grown to 17 locations, along with multiple retail concept spaces that include a boutique hotel, restaurant, and cafe. James also owns and operates the Whitaker Group, which acts as the consulting, creative, and design arm for the retail business and other entrepreneurial endeavors. He is responsible for design, building, social media, and marketing for all retail and retail experience concepts, including Alma Manier, Social Status, APB, Prosper, Social Works, the list goes on. We're really excited to have James and Kristen with us now to talk about the importance of supporting your local spot. So let's go over to them.
How's it going, guys? I'm very excited to get this going. I think this, for me, was very much a representation of sort of the essence of the original Unexpected Connections of 2018, where it was really bringing together people from different walks of life. And I think you guys are, in many ways, a representation of that. And today's topic is really about supporting your local spot. And I know we've seen a lot of things happen in the last 3, 4, 6 months. And for us, it's looking to see what comes out of this. And for both you guys, you run businesses that really reflect on the local community. And I really want people to kind of understand what's it like in your shoes right now, and also the importance and the value of that face-to-face interaction. So the thing I want to start off with is, for you guys, what were some of the earliest moments you had with going to like a local spot or interacting with someone at a restaurant or at a retailer? And we're going to start with you, Kristen.
Yeah, I mean, I've had different iterations. You know, I've been part of smaller city communities of restaurant groups and everything. And I think for me, obviously, now that we see restaurants pulling the kitchen into the dining room and making it one cohesive experience, the cooks and the people in the kitchen are no longer hidden people, right? We get to see our guests, the guests get to see us, and it brings a vulnerability and an honesty. And for me, that's something that I love to be a part of, and I also like to be a consumer of. You know, when I moved to Texas, never have ever been there, and then here I am opening a restaurant in Austin, is the best thing about it was the second it was kind of this made public information, the amount of like the small urban farms that would start to reach out, and these experiences that I knew existed, but I didn't know that were going to kind of engulf me into this community. It all of a sudden started to happen. And for me, that was probably that feeling of having a sense of belonging in a place that maybe you never really even recognized yourself as feeling like you could belong. And those people just kind of wrapping their arms around you, that moment in like that instant of second is, I mean, I'm getting the goosebumps thinking about it all over again. It's humbling, it's heartwarming, it is encouraging, and it's something that I continue to try to pay forward as well.
Yeah. What about you, James? Especially since a lot of the retail concepts you guys run is really dependent on that face-to-face interaction.
No, I think early on, I think coming from a small town, it was one of those things where I was trying to get the ideas that I had in my mind out, and I needed to go around different places in the world, to kind of get confidence that the ideas that I had in my head would make sense to other people, and they just weren't things in my head, right? And the thing that I learned in getting those ideas out was the value of the face-to-face interaction, and then bringing those things home. You understand that how important they mean to the community, because coming from small places, people don't have a lot of things to grab onto. So when you bring something unique and different back to small places and then even bigger places, it seems they cherish them even more. And to Kristen's point, that's the thing that gets us excited, gets me excited when you have something in your head and you think it can work, and then you present it to the world, and they're as equally as excited as you are about that.
Yeah. But there's one thing that, Kristen, you mentioned that I actually think is relevant to both you. It's when you announced something in Austin, you had a lot of people kind of reach out from the local community. And this is one thing, James and I kind of share a background in streetwear. And one thing I'm curious is that how important is it to have that local synergy, to have a jumping off point? And, to look at James's examples, like having a local store to support a local brand before it goes, to a bigger audience, maybe nationwide or worldwide. How do you guys look at that sort of connection with others, and like creating that sort of small economy with whether it's a local farm or a local brand?
I mean, it's absolutely necessary for survival, really. I mean, there's no way you can sit on this island by yourself. You can be the greatest chef, you can be the greatest entrepreneur, you can be the greatest anything, but without community backing, without feeling like you are part of something as a whole, as a bigger entity than whatever, a restaurant or a retail store is, without that, we are nothing. You can scale it all the way down. Without the cooks in my kitchen, without our team, without our Arlo Grey family, I am nothing. And so all these things kind of continuously feed one another in order to make us all kind of hopefully grow up together, and figure it all out as a team. But alone, it makes no sense. We are nothing without it.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add to that, James?
No, I could echo. Without team, the biggest thing the biggest message I think I heard her say is, as you scale anything, or as you start to bring anything together, you need the community. But as much as you need the community, your team is as equally important. As we've grown, I used to say to myself, forever it was a team of three. Eugene, you remember when I was small and I used to come to Hong Kong and spend time with you guys. It was just me just trying to figure it out. And now my team is 200. So without those guys caring as much as I care, then there is no me. So I share that thought process.
Yeah. And how do you guys look at the value of these sort of face-to-face interactions? I think that there's this belief that perhaps, things are just going to go touchless, contactless. And I think that for me personally, I kind of want to push against it, because I do believe that, especially in Hong Kong, where we have had the opportunity to kind of go out and interact face-to-face kind of pre-COVID, you realize what you were missing. And for you guys, have you looked at this time and reflected on the types of businesses you want to run coming out of this whole pandemic?
Absolutely. For me, I think it's impossible to have a touchless world. As much as digital is important, the interaction and the balance between digital and physical is very important, because I think long before COVID, retail, restaurant, lifestyle experiences were all merging into one. And how we enjoyed those minutes and engaged within all those different things, from like food to retail to like socializing. All those things were starting to melt into one, at least in our world. Hence is why we operate Amaminier Eats, which is restauranting or cafe eating and retail, and then Amaminier Living with boutique hotel and retail. Like all those things in my mind begin to be one big experience to me. So I think coming out of COVID, those things will be more important for the people who like we all yearn for interaction. It's just the right interactions.
What about you, Kristen?
I mean, yeah, I mean, the restaurants in general are, I mean, many industries, but restaurants are going to change. They're going to look different. There's going to be a completely different model. However, that interaction is still going to have to exist. It not only, I mean, if there's anything that it's reminding me of is that, you know, obviously I got into cooking because I wanted to cook. I've stayed in cooking because I love to cook for other people. And that moment of you don't have to watch someone eat in like a weird way, but like to be able to know that that food is going to hit that table and you can go out and talk to somebody for 2 seconds. That's all it takes. That is the reason why I cook. I mean, at home, like I'm literally cooking every day and I'm not nearly as thrilled about it as I am cooking for other people. So it's going to change, but I 100% agree. And I am confident that interaction, we will find new ways to encourage it and envelop it and develop it and grow it into whatever it needs to look like as we move forward.
What have you guys learned the most about yourself, whether it's personal or professional, in the last, 3 months, 6 months, since everything sort of kicked off?
I think for me personally, it's always been about pushing yourself, continuing to push yourself, and knowing that you can't settle for where you are. Like I live in the thought process of either you need to evolve or things will evolve you, or you'll get left behind. So I've always tried to be intentional about looking forward and looking for different ways to change and push the boundaries of next. So I think that's always been a part of who I am and who I've been. But I think over the last 3 months, I've begun to understand how important it is and how blessed I am to have this way of thinking.
I think for me, the biggest thing that I've learned is that for so long, for a very long time, I've kind of struggled with this idea of self-worth and who am I to have and have not the things that I have and have not, and like all this stuff and the opportunities. And for me is that my worth was always placed on being busy. My worth was always placed on like doing this job and giving and giving and giving and doing and moving so fast that my head can't keep up. And the biggest thing that I learned is that in this moment where everything is kind of forced to be slightly more still, the important things are rising to the surface. So when all those things rise to the surface, you can give those 100% of your time, as opposed to giving 100% of your time to a bunch of other things that perhaps don't even deserve it. So in this time, the important things have shown themselves and made me realize where my focus needs to be in order to concentrate the work that has to be done.
Yeah. And then as we see I mean, the one thing I've looked a lot at is just this notion that Amazon's sort of eating the world. And as they sort of get this touch point on everything, what do you guys think you offer in terms of what you guys do that is in some ways a protection against, just going the very impersonal route of just going online?
I think is what you've heard so far, right? I think understanding who we both are, it was kind of genius that you guys partnered us together, because I think we both have a unique way of approaching the things that we love and approaching our passion. Passion can't bleed through online transactions. I think the value that you get with both of us is we offer experiences, and I'm sure a personal energy that's contagious. I think one thing about face-to-face experiences is you get a chance to bring all of someone's senses to life. You can't do that with online transactions, and you can't have the level of you don't get the level of community and camaraderie. It's just so many interpersonal things that you get when space and experience is curated the right way. And I think for both of us, I think it sounds like we're both committed to those things. And I think that's the big thing that separates us between a lot of the companies that are being eaten up by Amazon.
You know, it's one of those, I mean, just today, like, so we live in New York City, and going to the grocery store has been this thing that has carried a lot of fear for a long time. And so we're just now starting to get to the grocery store and go to the Whole Foods around the corner and all that stuff. And the thing that I was most excited about is like even just small little interactions that normally we maybe would have pushed aside else, you know, during another time. But we were in the grocery store, and this girl was like kind of standing next to the pomegranates, holding the pomegranates, and kind of just being like, and she was asking the guy at Whole Foods, you know, how do I know which one's the best one? And I'm standing there and I'm like, okay, normally I probably would have just kept on going, and, you know, people are busy and whatever. But I stopped for a second, and there was about a 1 minute interaction about talking about how we know our like pomegranates are ripe. And so it was me, the Whole Foods guy, and then the woman buying the pomegranates. And it was just this like, it felt good. It was calm. It carried a lot of positivity. It just felt good because we've all been missing it. And I think now we, you know, even more so recognize how important those face-to-face interactions are, whether it be business or personal.
Yeah.
No, very good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
I mean, I will never look at a pomegranate the same way. Like, I love them.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of value to what you guys bring in terms of being that educational layer, because, you know, you go to a shop, retailer, hotel, you go to a hotel and you ask the locals, like, where's the best spot? And they're not going to give you any BS. It's kind of like they live and work in the area, right? I think there's definitely a lot of value in terms of that. And for you guys coming in terms of this, do you think that those that will kind of see their way through these challenges will actually come out stronger because they've kind of honed in on their product and made it much clearer what their value is? And I think this is sort of what I've looked at a lot, is this is sort of in many ways kind of coming into the pits, and it's a very challenging time for a lot of people, but, you know, people like yourself seem to have an ability to kind of hone in on what you guys do well and trim the fat, as they say. Like, I mean, there's a lot of kind of psychological trauma that comes with all the stuff that's happened. And what are your guys' perspectives on kind of needing to make difficult decisions at this point in time?
You know, I think like, you know, go ahead.
No, go, please.
Okay. You know, as we're talking about how Arlo Grey needs to look during this time, and like the different waves of how we're supposed to figure this out, is that, you know, the biggest thing that I'm gathering from all of this time and the difficult and hard decisions that need to be made is that I am now seeing things in a more, I guess, willingness to open my mind a little bit more to see how perhaps a business can be run. And so now we're being educated every single day just by being like, okay, well, option A is no longer an option. So what is your B, C, D, E, F, and G, and all the way down to Z, and understanding what that all looks like. And what we're learning is that, or particularly what I'm learning is that I'm seeing what it feels like to look at business and opportunity in a different way. It's fascinating. It's hard because now you're admitting like, okay, I was a stubborn ass before. And now I'm admitting like, okay, yes, Kristen, like take a step back, see what it's like, and also learn from other people.
What about you, James?
No, I think for me, it's I've always approached our business through the mentality of bootstrapping. Like, I've never had investors, or I never had any outside money or any like outside help. So it was always in the beginning coming up and figuring out how to conserve and what is the most efficient and effective way to do things. And then obviously, once we got into years later and had budgets to be able to do things, we were able to get more creative and do more things out of like just more wanting than needing, right? So the idea of needing to make the hard decisions, it's almost just about remembering the days where we didn't have as much budget as we have now, and we didn't have as much resources, and figuring out how to get as savvy as we were kind of then until we understand what the new normal is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. This is a question that's I think been weighing on my mind for a while, especially looking at both the world of streetwear retail, as well as food, is that obviously there's a very strong segment of people of color, Black people, brown people that worked in your guys' industries. How important is it to make sure that they're taken care of in these times, and making sure that, you know, they're supported in hopes that when things kind of pick back up, then you guys will be able to hit the ground running with your teams and whatnot?
Yeah, Kristen, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I will fully admit I'm learning a whole hell of a lot of what it means to be an ally and what it means to support and how best to do that. And I mean, there are so many various ways that everyone is kind of reteaching and kind of reinvigorating what it looks like to them. You know, for me now going back into Austin, and for so long that in my brain, it was like, okay, well, we don't see color, we don't see gender, we don't see sexuality, we don't see all this stuff. But there is this other extra layer that is now a responsible thing to say, is to say, yes, I see all those things. It is not in a bad way. And now it's recognizing and noticing it and paying attention. So I have an obligation to pay attention more to our team members that are part of the Black community, to the farmers that are part of the Black community within Austin and beyond. And it's now a responsibility and a more focused train of thought, I guess, if that makes sense. Because before it was like you felt wrong for noticing, but now it's like you should notice so you are able to do better.
No, and good point. And I can add on that for us, it's really always been about, like, as a Black entrepreneur walking in rooms is the only Black guy in a room, especially in an industry full of, I guess, from a consumer perspective, tons of Black people, right? But when you start walking in a lot of corporate rooms, there isn't a lot of us. So I've always tried to go back and build our company in a way where we kind of offer people an opportunity to learn and grow and be better, right? So I think that's always been a part of who we are now. But to Kristen's point, I had to say to myself, I need to be a little more intentional around checking where everyone on our team is in their individual personal growth, because I'm so far along. I've been in this journey for 15 years now, so I kind of understand what's happening. But I sometimes take for granted that some people on our team has only been in this. Some are very new, some is a year, some 2, 3, 4, 5, and regardless of time, people process things different emotionally. So I've had to learn that I need to be there for different people in different ways, if that makes sense, and kind of meet them where they are.
Yeah, no, those are great answers. I think that for me, I mean, I might be a little bit more similar to Kristen, is that there's so many things to learn, you know, and especially we're kind of half a world away in Hong Kong and Asia. It's like there's a lot of things that we're trying to pick up, because we see everyone sort of has different experiences, and being very sensitive to that and understanding how to best work with people, I think it's going to be really critical moving forward. And, you know, I appreciate.
I think we're all just gonna pay attention to one another just a little bit more, which at the end of the day is probably is something that should have already been happening. But people are more focused and, I guess, more in tune and more intentional, like James was saying.
Yeah.
Well, and to your point though too, Kristen, I think you said something very interesting when you said, I think there's something to be said for being open-minded enough to not see gender, color, because when you get to that place, I think at some point, I want to believe that you understand your privilege, right? But it usually takes people who've gotten that far, who really function that way. I think have probably been through things personally in their life to help get them there. I don't think it's very easy for people to get there where they don't see those things, if that makes sense. A lot of people say it, but not a lot of people are really there.
Yeah, I mean, because for so long in our industry, you know, obviously women in the kitchen and being part of the LGBTQ community, especially women in the kitchen, it's like, okay, now you are taught, like, one, you have to be intentional about the women coming to apply for you and showing up for them. And it's about, I mean, whoever you are, whatever you are, at the end of the day, I was looking at a skill level and the right person for the right job, which yes is one thing, but now there's another layer that's going to get added onto it. And I think it's been an eye-opening kind of experience for me, because I thought, oh, you know, like, it's cool. Like, I accept and I love and whatever everyone for who they are. But it's been a journey. And I think the greatest thing that has come out of it for me personally is the willingness and openness, I guess, and the realization of how much more I have to learn.
I'm curious for you guys, what value do you guys see in having this movement around owner operators? For example, people that you can directly interface with the person that owns the brand or the restaurant or the company. And do you think that there's a movement around that becoming the types of businesses we want to support as a culture and society?
I damn sure hope so. I mean, I think the value is there because the integrity is there, the passion is there. I mean, listen, take me out of it. I'm a passionate person, right? And this is, I've obviously had the previous interactions with Kristen, but it bleeds. Like, you can hear her passion when she talks about it. You don't get that all the time from people in big companies. Very rarely do people bleed the ethos of a big brand. When you have owner operators, you get to see it all. Most of us lay it all out there. So I hope the consumer understands and takes pride in our passion.
I mean, going out to the dining room is one of those things that is just as exciting for me 5 years ago as it is now. Like, being able to go just talk to someone. No, we don't have to talk about food. We don't have to do anything. And then also getting my team to go out there, to step outside of the kitchen and just push them and encourage them to go out there and see the people that they're feeding. It is just as educational and beneficial for us as it is, hopefully, probably it's more beneficial for us than it is for the guests to see us. And it reminds us why we do what we do.
I have a handful of user submitted questions that we're gonna go to.
So excited to get it back going with everything that's been happening. I've been trying to be sensitive to all the protests and movements that are happening and give everyone enough time to kind of breathe. And I'm going to take the temperature of our team again tomorrow, but the overall plan is to be. How's everything been with you guys in New York?
I mean, New York is definitely a powerful place that you can just feel right now. I mean, we live in an area where a lot of the protests either start or begin. So we were walking home and there was another march happening, and just like, again, goosebumps, just like seeing it and like feeling that thing we were talking about, feeling what's happening is so important and necessary to understand the enormity and, severity of what's happening and why things are happening. And, I think when I go back to Arlo Grey in Austin, I'm getting in my car. I'm going to go get it washed. It's been sitting there for a very long time, and I'm going to drive to Houston because I was reading all about your shop in Houston, and I'm super excited.
Oh no, please! I mean, I would love to do something in try to figure out how to infuse what we do together and create a moment. I think obviously I think we have an opportunity to create something special if you have time and when you have time.
100%, absolutely.
Eugene, you see what you're putting together here? We thank you for this in advance.
I'll have to file for that, but things are cool. But Kristen, the first question from Will in New York, he's asking, how is your personal story and the experience represented in your restaurants and your dishes?
Oh God, that's a big question, Will. So Will from New York, everything about Arlo Grey, from the name, which is what I've named my first child, to the water glass and the coffee mugs that kind of remind me of my dad. Corrugated, he was a packaging engineer and corrugated materials growing up, and all the little things of the Korean Cinderella being told in the restrooms, as my mom would always read me when I was young. my personal notebooks, the food, pulling from my childhood and upbringing in Michigan, but being a Korean adoptee and sort of loving and kind of not understanding Asian food, and what that all came out to be. I mean, it is everything. Every ounce of who I am is pushed into that restaurant, which hopefully makes it great, but it's also a really scary thing when someone says they don't get it and they're like, oh shit, well, maybe they don't just get me, but that's okay. But there's everything about who I am that shines through, from the bathrooms to the food to the water glasses.
Nice. This next question is for you, James. How have you been able to identify and harness culture to incept your business concepts? If I understand the question,
you know what?
Yeah. I think it's along the lines.
I think it's.
We keep talking over each
Go
other.
ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. I think the question from Chloe from California is, how do you kind of identify culture and then turn like movements within culture into businesses, viable businesses?
Good question, Chloe. I think it's one of those things just about being. My favorite word is intent, and I got a couple other buzzwords that I use constantly, but intention is one of them. I'm always intentional about taking in what I'm experiencing, when and why, and then trying to recreate those experiences for others if I feel strongly enough about them. So the thing that I've always been really mindful of doing is trying to live as much as I can and understand the things that I get excited about and figure out how that works within the rhythm of what I'm doing and what we're doing for our brands, and then infuse those things in. So it's an easy answer. It's just getting out there. And I think it was one of the comments I made early on. It's just having the confidence to actually take the leap once you feel something, to see if others will love it.
Got it. Thanks for that. Next question is to you, Kristen. You mentioned wanting to travel to Korea after winning Top Chef. Did you take that trip? If so, what was the largest takeaway personally and professionally as a chef?
You know, that's a question that I've probably asked more than what my name is. It is a question that carries a short answer for in the big picture of things, but a emotional answer. So the answer is no, I have not gone. You know, the journey of being, I guess, an adoptee and recognizing what that carries and what it actually means has been this thing that has been a roller coaster for me. At 16, I got my papers of of all the stuff and the records, I guess, that they hold back from you when you're adopted. And then at 18, I was like, yes, I'm going to go. And then, I started working. I wasn't making a lot of money. I didn't have time to go. And then Top Chef happened. And it was like, okay, now I have this moment to actually go. And I said it out loud. And in that moment, I was still ready for it. And then I don't know, I know what happened, but I don't know what happened at the same time, is that the reasons of why I was going to go started to change. And now is this me making excuses as to why I don't want to go? And I keep continuously allowing myself to accept the excuses. I don't know. But right now, I don't feel that it would provide me any fullness or a sense of feeling more whole than I already do right now. So I will go eventually, but not right now. Yeah. There's a lot of things and a lot of opening of cans of worms that I don't know if I'm quite ready yet for.
The last question is for you, James. What needs to happen in this country to realize systemic change? How optimistic are you that this week represents progress?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I mean, there's so many different places. I think accountability is a big one, right? I think, but that's just one part of it. It's a mixture of accountability, and also people have to show when they're not getting accountability. People have to be willing to protest. I think the biggest thing that I've seen, not just in the U.S., but in Hong Kong and around the world, when people aren't satisfied with their treatment by institutions, the only thing you can do is use your voice. And if you don't use your voice, then things will never change. So peaceful protest is probably the best way to go. I think we're a long way away from change, but I think if you take the energy of youth culture and you infuse it with the wisdom of people who've been around and had experience engaging within the systems the right way, then you could get change. But we all have to be willing to go the long haul with protesting until we get to a place where we're comfortable, and we can't tire or become weary when things don't. We got to stay at it. We got to keep pushing, because this is going to be a marathon in the U.S. and outside of the U.S. It's never as easy as we would like it to be. So we just got to keep pushing.
Thanks for that. That was Sean from Long Beach. That's all I have for questions. I wanted to end it off on this. Did you guys have any questions that you wanted to ask each other that may have popped up?
When's the collab happening?
Yes. It seems like the collab is sooner than later. Now you're in Austin, I'm in Houston, so we owe each other a visit. So I guess you guys could you could look out for the collab, and Macon will have all the information.
Yeah.
And
I look forward to it.
That's it.
And actually,
we'll do a team trip from Arlo Grey to you, and then you do a team trip to us, and that would be an amazing moment.
That's
awesome.
a deal.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I appreciate
Thank
you guys'
you.